You've seen the bumper sticker, "He who dies with the most toys wins." It made an impact because it's just so wrong.
Capitalist.
Capitalist, okay, so how do you reconcile what I think are some of the positives of capitalism?
We all should sacrifice for the greater good, but everybody has to do it.
There are lots of people who don't have any faith in the government system of reallocating income.
Who hates taxes? Americans. That's something we can all agree upon.
Like Jesus said, where a man's heart is, so that his treasure lies, baby. And so it's where you.
Part of my belief system is a Christian value, okay? And to me, that means not being materialistic. That means putting more emphasis on things that are more valuable than money, et cetera, and the things that money can buy.
Yeah.
And that you're better off, in your family, your community, your world is better off if you share the material resources that you have with those that need them and don't have them for whatever reason. Okay, but that's in conflict with what you learn in the market-driven society, which is the goal. The end goal is, you've seen the bumper sticker, "He who dies with the most toys wins." Right?
I have seen that bumper sticker.
So I haven't seen it lately, but it made an impact because it's just so wrong.
Capitalist.
Capitalist, okay, so how do you reconcile what I think are some of the positives of capitalism
Mhm.
with the spiritual or religious values of things that are more important than the monetary things? I learned one thing that was interesting. Our pastor said in one of his sermons, you would think that out of the Christian Bible, the words that would be said more often, especially in the New Testament, but all throughout it, the words that are spoken more often would be justice, love, grace, etc. But no, the word most often used is money. Why would that be? Well, it's because that's something that's central to everybody's existence. It's how we function in society, and it's very meaningful to us. We all know what it means to have or not have money, but money's just a tool.
It is. And the
What you
Bible
do
tells
with it
us,
that
and the
counts.
Bible tells us that it's not, because people always misquote this. It's not the love, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. Not
Right.
money is the root of all evil. Meaning, so a resource with malintention is, like Jesus said, where a man's heart is, so that his treasure lies, baby. And so it's where your heart is coming from, added to the tool of what that money is, that produces these outcomes in society.
We all should sacrifice for the greater good, but everybody has to do it, because the moment one person doesn't and becomes greedy or self-centered or selfish, that destroys the whole society to go forth that way.
Then everybody jumping into the
We've
pool.
done this in human history before. We've done this.
You see it in community. Well, we do it now as a humanity in different tribal ways. If you go to different countries and different communities.
Yeah, because this has me thinking a lot about Denmark. Denmark is a lot like that.
And so like the idea of being taxed 70%. Woof. First of all, who hates taxes? Americans. That's something we can all agree upon. I don't care what your political or socioeconomic thought, whatever, wherever you at, we all hate taxes. And so, but are we willing to pay more taxes so that everyone can have a level lifestyle, a level playing field? Everybody has a home, everybody has food, everybody has transportation, and
Children have
everybody is
access to
able
quality
and
kindergarten.
and everybody can, have good food. And are we willing to do that? And the answer is right now. The answer is no. Like I'm willing yesterday, but everybody has to buy in. Everybody has to give up something in that equation. And until we let go and we give up so that everybody can have, we're doomed for destruction because we're stuck on stupid.
Not to
But
be
we
glib.
have to, but Andre and Felicia, we have to remember that it's often not are we willing to give up, but how. In other words, there are lots of people who don't have any faith in the government system of reallocating income and think that that's better handled by private sources, churches, et cetera, in the community. So once again, it's a puzzle with so many different pieces, but that is an important piece, no
And I think
doubt.
what Felicia and I, first of all, all of this is reminding me of that Bette Midler song, From a Distance. I'm a big Bette Midler fan. And number one, from a distance, we are instruments. But anyway, and I think Felicia and I accept the complexity of all of that. What alarms me is the stunning lack of creativity given all the talent in this country. So let's get, because Marietta, I agree with you. I don't think capitalism is inherently bad. I think it takes private and public enterprise, but we need to get creative about doing it, and then put in frameworks that hold systems accountable so folks can take advantage and profit or whatever, right? But I think our current society just has us thinking in terms of camps and tribalism so much that we don't want, or we don't become creative, because the minute we try to get creative with a solution, someone says, well, you're not a part of the tribe anymore, and they're ostracized, right? So it's like, as long as we're entrenched in the camps, then no one's ever going to cross between, no one's going to ever enter the demilitarized zone.
Marietta, can I ask you to reflect on a specific example? The question that Andre asked you, and I'm just thinking of Michelle's comments about the different educational experiences. What if, and I'm not saying to buy this as a solution, I'd love to hear the way you think about it, and maybe how you think about it now versus how you would think about it when you had, education age kids, school age kids. So imagine there's, let's see, in Los Angeles, there's Culver City that's broken off. There's Beverly Hills that's broken off. There's a variety of different communities that have broken off. So let's say you lived in one of those, and something came up that said, we're gonna put all of these communities in the same education basket. All property taxes go to all kids in this area, right? Wealthy or unwealthy, right? Which would mean that, let's say you lived in Culver City or Beverly Hills, which would mean that those property taxes that you're used to go into your school system for your kids, right, and their enrichment are now going to be diluted in some way, expanded, to the broader population of kids. That would be an example of a tension, right, between what might be good for the development of your own family versus what might be good for kind of equity and the common good. Like, how would you, and maybe some of it is like, depends on who the money's going to, right? Is it going to be the government that's controlling it? Is it private institutions? I hear that, and I'm willing to hear that. But just the general principle of this, we're in it together type of feeling, and how it might impact what your child would have had versus what they're going to have in terms of resources for their school. How would you reflect on that now? How would you reflect on it at that time? Like, how do you think about that as it relates to race? Because, I mentioned socioeconomics, but there's a big overlap between racial disparities and socioeconomic disparities. So how do you think about that?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I live in Palos Verdes, and so our funds actually do go into a pool that is allocated across a very wide, very wide. So I've lived that, and then I actually see the other side of what happens in that situation is that the people in the community form a foundation, and they pump a lot of their money into that foundation, which which is necessary to provide things like library assistance. I mean, we have almost no art program. We have very little music program, but some of that is made up for by these private foundation, not private foundation, foundation funds. So it's a lot more complex, once again, than you might paint the picture. But I know what you're getting at. You're asking about the concept of something that would be very much affecting me and my community, but which would have an outcome that would benefit other groups. And you know, it all comes back to, I hate to be sounding wishy-washy, I'm for it, I'm against it, but seriously, you have to look at all the different ramifications of that and the efficiency of it. Yeah, you know, does it really help a school to get more funds for textbooks or for teacher salaries or for after-school programs if the nutritional needs of the students aren't being addressed, if the kids come to school hungry and their parents are so stressed about, you know, how are they going to decide between paying the rent and affording the medication that they need, and there's strife going on in the home and there's no support for homework. How is it going to help those schools to have more funds unless there's some more creativity about how to address the needs that are there? I'll give you another example that might be pertinent to this. We worked with a refugee family that came in from Afghanistan, and they were put into a school system where, you know, they were not literate, they didn't speak English, they hadn't had medical care, that their needs were so overwhelming. It took a village of probably 15 or 20 of us just to help them navigate the system, to get the things that were available to them to help them have some success in that environment. And that opened our eyes to all the people that don't have that village of people to help them navigate that system. And to think about, well, number one, I'm glad there are systems out there to help people, government systems, nonprofit organizations. But what about the people that don't have that? You know, there are two sides to the coin. Yay, I'm glad that we're blessed that we have some things in place. But B, it's so difficult. Isn't there a more effective, efficient way to help people that need the help?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Concern would be how it's used. I guess, what about the basic concept of equity of initial inputs? I hear you that there are problems that might exist that might affect the way that education is done, regardless of the inputs. And I understand that money can be used in inefficient ways. I understand all of that. I guess I'm still wondering about the basic premise of at least access to resources that could help, right? How do you feel about that
It's necessary. It's necessary for us as a society. We need to move more in that direction. Absolutely. And whether it be through, you know, more education of us as to the needs and the vehicles that can be used to address those needs, or whether it be improving the effectiveness and efficiency of the institutions like government and some of the nonprofit organizations and just community activities. All the pieces are necessary. They're all there. They're all important.
Everybody is going to have to pick their side. There's two options. A world where we are all humans and we're all equal, and we figure out how to help each other arrive to our best, highest humanity as a society collectively. Or you're going to pick the side that's ego-led, that says that you need power and you need to rise to the top, and that life isn't fair. So some people are going to be under my foot, and my job is to try not to be under somebody else's foot. either you're oppressed or be oppressed or be oppressed. Like, some people have that worldview, they're gonna pick that side. I hope
What's
through these conversations
sorry,
that
go ahead.
everybody picks the side of humanity and equality in that humanity, recognizing everybody's humanity in a very equal way. Because life itself, in general, life's not fair. Like, there are people who are born without legs. That's not fair. There are people who lose their parents at a very young age. Maybe even lose their mom in childbirth, giving birth to them. That's not fair. So you have the life crap already that can set you up for all kinds of twists and turns on your journey once you arrive here. What I'm asking everybody, humans, especially in this country that we live in, called the United States of America, is that we all come together and do right by each other, which means a couple things. One, when I see you, I see myself. When I look at Randy, I see myself. When I look at Todd, I see myself because I see another human being, which means then I will treat you as well as I would treat myself. I will, if you come into my life, if you pass this way, I will love you like I love myself, right? And I will fight to love myself in its highest form. We have to reach higher than what we know to overcome this, because it is so, there's so much minutia, there's so much perspective, everybody has, like Michelle says, there's stuff in their back seat.
Yeah.
And so each of us on here, and then everybody we know and everybody who's watching this, has to decide that I am going to choose to operate from a place of, I'm going to love you, I'm going to love myself. And what that means is, I'm not going to do something that I believe will benefit me at the expense of you. And it's a deep thinking exercise that we need to change within ourselves, because at the base of capitalism, racism, and patriarchy is a need for power, is an egotistical need for power. And we have to let that go. Mitch McConnell is in office, holding on for dear life, despite his brain trying to sputter out on him, because he's trying to hold on to a perceived power for whatever faction he perceives that he has power for. We have to stop. We have to change, or we're going to self-destruct. The biggest issue that we all need to be worried about is our climate and our environment, because this is where we all live. But we so busy stuck on stupid. We've got to change.
Marietta, what are your thoughts? You've been quiet here for a little while. How do you reflect on all of this?
I just love that phrase, stuck on stupid. That is so perfect. I mean, and I go back to what I said before, really, that it's a journey, and it's gotta consist of all kinds of pieces and all kinds of, to reflect what I know Randy believes in wholeheartedly, all kinds of different perspectives. Because if you can't try to understand someone else's perspective, you may totally disagree with them in their conclusions. But if you can't try to understand their perspective, you can't have any kind of dialogue. And you may say, well, there's no use in dialoguing with certain people. It doesn't hurt to listen. You don't have to endorse what they say, but if you listen, you might learn something useful. And I'm also very much of a pragmatist in that if you're trying to achieve something, you need to look at the impact and the effect, the short-term effect. Hopefully you can figure out the short-term effect. Hopefully you can figure out what the long-term effect might be. I don't know.
What do you say that in reference to? What brought that to mind? The pragmatism.
Well, it goes back to my comment about activism. And do you just walk around and draw attention to the problem? Or do you focus on some potential solutions and try to understand the mechanics behind things? Why are things happening this way? Not just because there are a whole bunch of bad actors out there who want supremacy and control. That may be a piece of the puzzle, but you can't, I don't think it's helpful to say that's all there is. I think we need to look at, for example, the market forces that are working. And that takes me back to something I said near the beginning, where I look at my feelings about the security of my family.
Yeah.
And how Andre said that may be counter to the common good. Well, everybody wants their own family to be economically secure, to have advantages or at least a good start. And it's this market economy that teaches us that it's a zero-sum game, in that someone else mentioned it earlier today. The only way for someone else to have more is for me to have a lot less. And instead of saying, well, if I quote unquote invest in my community and invest in someone else's success, it will mean more for all of us in the future, short term and long term. There's just not enough thinking like that around.
What I hear, and I might be wrong, Felicia, you are at the end of the day in your, basic core, like a humanist. You want to focus on the humanness, but then get drawn back into the identity, because it's a practical matter. And I really resonate with that, because that was my grandfather. That's literally what my grandfather said. He did not practice this deeper essence of himself, Judaism, right, that he grew up with, because he was too busy making a life. And that's the basis of Andre's question, I feel like, too, which is, do you sacrifice something of the life you're trying to make for your family for this kind of common good that maybe, hopefully we would want in our core? I just hear this kind of same story resonating a lot in a lot of what we've said. And I don't know how to navigate it. I'm just reflecting on what I've heard and how it resonates with me.
Well, we all have to buy in. That's the problem with the premise.
Thank you for watching this episode of Healing Race, and stay with us for a scene from our next video.
If you want to see more conversations like the one you just watched, please subscribe to our channel, share this video with friends and family, and like and comment on the video below.
If you'd like to be a guest on one of our episodes and have an open, real conversation about race, email us at guests@healingraceshow.com.
And if there are topics you think we should cover, we'd love to hear them. So please email your ideas to topics@healingraceshow.com.
As always, thanks for your support. We look forward to continuing the conversation with you. Now, here's a scene from our next Healing Race.
I think being a single mother, that's one less salary one has, that's, exhaustion on the part of the mother. And I just think that, there's something about that I think within a community, maybe, the Black community could be looked at and maybe changed. And I'm opening a Pandora's box at the end.
Well, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, because so I am sensitive to single motherhood because that child was my existence. Okay. And it literally is my being. And I was with my mama last night. So I want to make sure, are you saying that single motherhood is a cause of some of Black people's problems? To watch the rest of that episode, go ahead and click the video below me.
To see a different compelling Healing Race episode, you can click the video below me. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.